So this evening we will speak about assessment. Of course, we have all followed the teacher training course. I will not teach you how to assess papers and so on, but I will give you an assignment to see, just to check if it's between the normal boundaries of assessment. If it's okay, then you don't hear about that. But what I will assess is a presentation that, but first let us look at assignments for marking. So bring it on the screen. So you have received all these documents. Not these ones, but moment, I show you. It is just a DTC. Here, these documents you received. So the first assignment is the marking of a closed book exam. And in the documents that I shared with you through WhatsApp, you find these documents. NOD closed book 1A and NOD closed book 1-2. So if we look at it, I shared it with you. So we see it on the screen here. Something in the way here. Try to move that. Anyway, it doesn't go. Okay, that's better. So that is a written exam, a real exam. I removed the name. And these are the answers. The questions and the answers. And this is the first page. And then you have the second page. NOD closed book 1B, that's the second. The second one is here. That was the first, and then the second one is B here. Yeah. Stop share. I just want to show that you see it. So that's the second page of the exam. So you will need to print these documents, or you can screen them, see them on the screen also, but you have to mark it. Best is you print it and you mark it in red. But to mark it, I give you also the answers. The answers. So this is the exam that I showed you on the screen. And these are the answers. The right answers. You get the answers and the exam, and then you have to mark the exam, that's all. You see, for At each question, you see the number of marks. First question, 3 marks. Second question, 12 marks. Yeah, 12, 1 for each they have correct, and so on. And at the end, you have to put the total marks, the total of their marks. That's, I think, chapter. If we go back. So these are the answers. You see the answers on the screen. Huh? Do you see them? No, okay, stop. Share. Do you see them now? Yeah, okay, these are the answers. But that's in the documents you received. All the answers are there. And then, yeah, I showed you before also the exams, 2 pages. This is one of these 2 pages. This is the first page and the second page. So you print it and you mark it. That that was the first page. And there was the second page. I show it again because Fish van Baarle was a little late. Otherwise, you will wonder what's the assignment here. Stop share, share. And this was the second page. Yeah. So, and at the end, I think, because it's a little small, and I see only with one eye for the moment, that yeah, there are 21 marks for the 2 verses. 21 marks for each verse, yeah, to make 100. And then you have 100. So you need to mark this, print it out, mark it, correct it, and send it. Best is to send it to the secretary. That's Vendraya Gopal Prabhu. You have to discuss with him to send it to him before the 15th of February. And he forwards me everything he received in one go. He forwards this to me, but together with your other assignment. This is your first assignment, marking a closed book exam. Now we will look at the second assignment in the documents you received. That yeah, for the marking of the slokas, the verses in the closed book exam, we have a marking key. I show that on the screen now. You received that also. So this is a system for marking slokas. So for the English or for the translation, or in another language, the principles are here for marking. This does not require the exact wording, but the full sense must be there. Attribute a certain number of marks to each part. For example, if there are 2 sentences of equal length, then each has 5 marks. If 1/2 is fully correct and 1/2 completely wrong or omitted, then awards 5 out of 10. Yeah. The Sanskrit. The verse reference, 2 marks. 1 mark for the chapter number, 1 mark for the verse number. That, yes. And then the verse itself, 8 marks, 2 marks for each line. Deduct 2 marks if an entire line is missing. Deduct 1 mark if a word is entirely wrong or missing. Deduct a half of a mark for a wrong letter that changes the sound meaning. Deduct 0.25 of a mark, quarter of a mark, for a wrong letter that doesn't change the sound. So that is one system that can be used. Usually we don't consider the diacritics. That's a bit too much. So that's a system for marking marking slokas or the sloka key. You have also received that. That will help you with the marking of the closed book exam. Now the next assignment that, let's see. You have to mark an essay. You see the essays here, model 4. Model 4. It's a thematic essay. And the theme was the secret of turning lust into love. Now, for marking this essay has a few pages. It was written by the devotee in Leicester more than 10 years ago. And this is your marking key at the end. 50 points, maximum 50 points for correct philosophy, 25 for presentation and structure.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes,
sorry, we don't see the file.
Okay, good. That's true. I see it. You don't see it. You should see it now, right? I go back to the top. So this is the theme, the secret of turning lust into love. It's in a essay of different pages, but the assignment was that they should demonstrate very clearly 4 aims in the essay. 4 aims. Shastra Saksha, Mutan mission, theological application, and personal application. 4, and it's a maximum mark of 25 for each of these aims. In total, 100 marks. Right? 50 marks for correct philosophy. Means correct philosophy is the philosophy presented in agreement with Siddhanta or other, yeah. That is, and then 25 marks for presentation structure. Presentation structure means it's an introduction. In the introduction, there must be the crucial aim should be explained. What's the purpose of the essay? And what method will be used to attain that aim? That's in the first paragraph. In the middle paragraphs, there must be a flow of thought. It's not that one paragraph is disjointed with another. It should be connected, a flow of thought leading to a conclusion. And at the end, there should be a conclusion. The crucial question from the first mentioned in the first paragraph should be answered in the conclusion. That is structure. Is there structure there? Are paragraphs disjointed? Is there no flow of thought of that? So this is important. And then, based on appropriate sections with quotes and references, which sections and references are used from PowerPoint books? Is it appropriate, or are there essential references and they are not there? And then the announced aim, is it covered? So each of these aims you must identify in that essay. Where are they? And give comments. What are your comments on the aims? Therefore, we have to go back. We have to go back to the student handbook. There's a student handbook from the Bhakti Shastri course. That's the wrong one. The student handbook. It's not here. That's here. Files. Here. Files. That's the student handbook, which we looked at a few times. There you must go to the beginning. Explained this before, but it's important that you understand this. Here you have the aims. And it's here. So one is aims is Shastra Saksha. Here. The students should be able to recall and apply verses appropriate to situations in which they find themselves. Identify Krishna conscious verses, stories, and so on. Demonstrate a correct Vaishnava attitude and perspective towards situations. So this should be there. A few of these points should be there. That then they are answering, they are writing according to the aim. The students knew this also before writing the essay. Here is the explanation of the aims, what they must achieve. And that's also your basis for marking this essay. Is that clear? Okay. So I go back to the essay once. Here. There's a marking at the end. And that is the essay. So you must write comments between. And I will show you now an example of such a marking, that it's clear to you what you should do. That's not what I wanted to see, just a moment. Yeah, that is it. This is an example, like here she writes comments in the essay. She says good quotes and so on. And here she writes also comments, question marks here. That then here she gives comments on the philosophy, structure, quotes, references, and the different aims. She gives comments. And this marking she sent to me in a separate file. I'll show you that file also. She writes me, she gives her comments on the essay and for philosophy, she gives 36 out of 50, for structure 8 of 25, and she explains why. And Sastra Saxa 15, more research could have been done. Muda mission, that 15, 18 out of 25. Personal application, that was very good, honest. That so she gives so many comments. So when you mark that essay, when you give a mark, you should explain why you give the mark. Explain it. That what's missing, what's good. That the aims, how they correspond with the aims in the student's book, what is missing, what was good. That so this essay marking is always subjective to a certain extent. but it must be balanced somewhat. That usually in exams, we find to try something good in it so that we can give a mark. But it must be a really realistic mark. That so is that clear what you have to do for the marking of this essay? Any questions? And the previous also nectar of devotion or to mark that exam? Good. Then we have a last assignment, and that's the most important, because these two marking assignments, when you send them to me, if there is nothing extreme in it, you will not hear from me. Only when there is a good reason, when it's out of balance. But mostly, is that not the case? But I just need to see that you are capable of marking, that's all. And I know it is subjective. But then the last part of the assessment is that you make a presentation on a section of the Bhagavad Gita. And that I will now discuss with you. And then we will look at a presentation. I will show you a video, 20 minutes, because your presentation should be 20 minutes, not much more. But you need to submit a lesson plan. And I will show you what I'm expecting from the lesson plan. So this is also in the materials you received. We go back to the materials. If we see that's print for students, that is what you received. So a lesson plan. That you have a lesson plan verses 336-43. That's the section you will need to discuss. That and I give you here the objectives. That by the end of the lesson, the student will be able to first understanding.
Maharaj, we again don't see the document.
Okay, yeah, okay. That here you have, so you have that document in your. Yeah. So by the end of the lesson, students will be able to understanding. Present an overview of Krishna's responses to Arjuna's question in 336 at 2 why lust is an enemy and how this enemy can be conquered. And then personal application. Discuss the relevance of this passage as to how lust covers the intelligence. Draw conclusions for personal experience of conquering lust by engagement in Krishna consciousness. And then preaching application. Identify reasons why conquering of lust is important. Discuss the relevance of the use of intelligence within the process of conquering lust. These are your objectives, but you must present the entire section from 36 to the end, to the last verses. So now I need from you to receive a lesson plan and the materials which you will use. Best is to make a PowerPoint. You will see that in the example further. I stop sharing it. I will give you now an example of a lesson plan. which you all also have received, lesson plan. This is a lesson plan from another section. But you must give the focus of learning, primary and secondary, and the aims you will discuss. And then the aims of your section and the objectives.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, we don't see the file.
Yeah, this is the same thing. I see it, but when it comes on my screen, I have to stop the sharing and do it again. It's a whole thing, and sometimes I forget. So here, the primary and secondary focus of learning. You have these documents that, and the aims are there, the objectives to reach. You need to explain them. Then the resources you are using, that the preparation for the lesson you do, a focused reading before the lesson, and then I need your lesson plan with your timings, all the sections and all the timings. I'll give you an example of a student of that on the screen, moment of such a time planning, because that must be included. Your presentation is 20 minutes. Moment. I see practice history. Example of Pandita. Okay, this is one way of doing it. I will show it. So that I explained already, but it's here, the time planning. Invocations says 1 minute, introduction 3 minutes, then going to the verses and explain the verses, and that's in total 11 minutes. And then she has an exercise, student brainstorm and sharing in pairs. That second exercise, students and individual introspection. So there should be exercises, interaction with the students. That although there will be no students, but you will see in the presentation how to do it. Presentation homework for next class. That's she gives homework, then wrap up. Words of Srila Prabhupada. And it's good also to connect your presentation with the next chapter. What comes after that? At the end of the third chapter, Krishna speaks the solution is to control the mind and senses with transcendental intelligence. But for transcendental intelligence, you need transcendental knowledge. So Krishna speaks in the fourth chapter about transcendental knowledge. And also, in the beginning, it's important you are connecting with the previous section of the Bhagavad Gita, because we are presenting a certain section from verses 36 till 43. But the section before, how does it connect with verses 36, 37? You have to explain. So, this is what I expect from you. I expect to receive a lesson plan with this timetable at the end, resources, all these things. I want also to need to receive your materials. Most practical is to send as materials to make a PowerPoint. That's best. So the presentation should be 20 minutes. And this presentation you need to send to the secretary. That can be done by sending a link, but if you send a link without password, please. That I must be able to access it. It must be public. You have to check and test it. Because if it's not public, I'm not going to deal with it. Then, or you can send it to WeTransfer.com as a file. Mostly they are not big files. But now we will see during 20 minutes an example of a student. I will show you a video of a student who did well. It was not perfect. There is room for improvement, but you will see how to do it technically. And she will present a presentation on that section that you will have to present. But please don't copy it. Use your intelligence and your skills to make something special, something that is attractive, that don't use the same examples and all these things. Make your own presentation. That's the message. Just a moment. Let's see now if I can share it. So we go back to Shasta TTC. It's here. Good. New share. So I will now start. If you don't hear the sound, let me know immediately, but normally it should be okay. Hare Krishna. I see you in 20 minutes after the clip. There it goes.
Hare Krishna devotees, thank you all so much for joining. Today, we will be speaking about the concept of lust from the Bhagavad Gita. I'll share my screen now. The concept of lust that we would be discussing from the Bhagavad Gita will be from chapter 3, verses 36 to 43. We'll start with the prayers. Om Ajnanathimmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Namavom Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhattavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Please bless me so that I may be able to speak a few words that is relevant to this matter. Hare Krishna. So the topic for today is lust from chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. So before we discuss this, let's have a quick overview of chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. In the first two verses of chapter 3, Arjuna seems to have a confusion. The confusion that he has is renunciation better, or Krishna, should I perform action? So that is the confusion he's having, and he asks Krishna, which one is better? From verses 3 to 16, Krishna explains that renunciation or jnana yoga is very hard, but one should perform action with detachment, and one must go from karma kanda to karma yoga. Then he explains to Arjuna from verses 17 to 35 that even if one is qualified, he tells Arjuna that you should do nishkama karma yoga to set the right example. Nishkama means without any desires. So he encourages Arjuna that he should perform karma yoga without desire so that he can set an example, even if he is qualified to become a great renunciant. Then Arjun has a very, very important question. And that is the question we are going to discuss. And in answer to that question of Arjuna, Krishna explains the concept of lust. So those are the verses from 36 to 43. That is something we will see in full detail. But before we head into the subject matter, let's have an icebreaker. So everyone here, please share a situation in your life when you reacted in anger and repented later. Thank you all so much. So we see that sometimes we spontaneously react without thinking much. We are impelled to behave in a particular manner as if by force. It happens with every one of us. So Arjun also had the same question. He asked Krishna, "Oh Krishna, what impels one to act against his or her nature?" So for that, Krishna answered Arjuna with this very beautiful verse. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Kamayesha Krodayesha Rajoguna Samudbhava Mahanasho Mahapapma Viddinam Miha Vairinam. The translation is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of the contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So the answer given by Krishna is that it is lust. That is the cause of this action. One feels like he's forced to behave in a particular manner against his nature. Why does that happen? It is because of lust, which is born of the contact with the material mode of passion. So, having said this, one may question, why is there lust in the first place? So, we must all understand that we are parts and parcels of Krishna. So, we have all the qualities of Krishna in minute quantity. We may not be, of course, we are not as great as Krishna, but in minute quantity, we possess many qualities of Krishna. Independence is one of those qualities. But when a jiva decides to misuse his independence, he comes under the sway of lust. This is what happens to all of us in this material world. The original love that we have for Krishna gets transformed into lust when we come to this world and when we come in contact with the material mode of passion. So the misuse of our intelligence is the reason why this original love that we have for Krishna transforms into lust. Now, there is a big problem since we are here and we all have lust. How to work around this lust? So Prabhupada tells in the purports of Bhagavad Gita that we should spiritualize our lust and anger by desiring for Krishna and using anger in Krishna's service. Just like in this picture, we see Hanuman. Hanuman also used his anger, but he used his anger in a spiritual way. He used it in the service of Lord Ram. So he burned the entire Lanka down as a service to Lord Ram. That is the way he used his anger. So all the qualities that we develop in this world can be somehow or the other dovetailed in the service of Krishna. That way we can spiritualize our very being. Now that we understand that we have lust, there is a very beautiful analogy given by Krishna to explain the degrees of covering of lust, because it is this lust that is covering one's consciousness. What are these 3 degrees of covering? The first in this analogy he talks about is fire. Fire covered by smoke. So you might have seen sometimes in forest fires, you would see a lot of smoke, but within that smoke, beneath that smoke, actually there is still fire lingering. It just requires a little bit of kindling and that fire can again restart. So fire covered by smoke is a slight covering. And the fire covered by smoke is an analogy of the covering that is seen in human beings. Now, human beings, we have a slight covering of lust, and we can easily conquer it by the performance of devotional service. So we have a very easy weapon that we can utilize to remove the covering of lust. The second level of covering that is discussed is used with the analogy of mirror covered by dust. So we have had this experience on a regular basis. We clean our homes, and sometimes the mirror is covered with a fine layer of dust. So we take that cloth and we try to clean up that mirror. However, before we clean up the mirror, if you look at your image in the mirror, it doesn't reflect properly. The mirror is not reflecting properly if it is covered with dust. Now, this is a more heavier covering as compared to that of fire covered by smoke. This kind of medium covering, which is slightly more than the fire covered by smoke, is seen in animals. Animals have their consciousness more heavily covered as compared to humans. Now, the third analogy given is the embryo covered by the womb. So we all know how an embryo is very safe within the womb. There is a thick covering around the embryo. So the covering is very intense, like that seen in that of trees. The consciousness of trees is very, very deeply covered. One advantage that we can understand from this analogy is that we as human beings have a better chance of taking up to devotional service and conquering that lust and engaging in Krishna's service. So that part is very, very promising. However, we see that this lust is a big problem. It is deeply rooted. And how do we conquer lust? Because it appears that lust is never satisfied. The analogy of pouring oil into fire is given here. Krishna himself gives this analogy. He says it is very difficult to conquer lust. It's like pouring oil onto fire. If you pour water onto fire, fire will get put off. But if you pour oil, what happens? It starts burning even more further. So it appears that lust can never get satisfied. The more you indulge in satisfying your lust, the more we become lusty. So this is seen in our everyday life. Krishna explains, Indriyani mano bhuttir adhyadhisthana muchyate etair vimohayati esha jnanam avritta dehinam. He says, this lust, which is very difficult to get rid of, is seated in the senses, mind, and intelligence. Very intelligent. It has captured all the strategic positions in one's body. So this lust that is deep-rooted has taken off all the important positions. So imagine all the activities we do is either by our mind, or it is by our intelligence, or it is through our senses. Now, if all these three have been captured by lust, how difficult it is for us to get rid of this lust. Of course, in the previous slide, we just spoke that for human beings, it is easy. But still, though it is so much easier for us over animals, still the lust is deep rooted and it is sitting in all strategic points. So how do we tackle this? How do we get out of lust? How do we conquer it? Krishna says, lust must be conquered by conquering the shelters of lust. This is actually a very nice method. So if lust has taken shelter somewhere, first go and attack those shelter points. And Krishna tells us, start with the easiest. Don't go and attack the intelligence, then the mind, and then the senses. Go the other way around. It is easier to conquer your senses over conquering the mind, over conquering the intelligence. Intelligence is very difficult to control. Mind is also difficult to control. But the senses are the first things you must attack. Now, how will you attack the senses? We know now senses will be conquered first. But how do you conquer the senses? You just cannot say to the senses, I will not give you any object of enjoyment. You can't do that. Krishna says you try to regulate your senses. Just like if you have diabetes or if you have any medical condition, you're given a diet plan so that you can regulate your senses and your body can be, the functions in your body can be controlled. Or you want to lose weight, you go to a dietitian gives you a prescription what to eat and what not to eat. That way, the senses become controlled, and because the senses are controlled, eventually your health is also under control. So similarly, the first thing that we should do is we should start regulating the senses. Now, Krishna tells us that the working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses, and intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, who is the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So he gives the increasing order. He says dull matter is actually not at all something great, but the senses are greater than the dull matter. Mind is greater than the senses, intelligence is greater than the mind, and the soul is the greatest of all. So he gives us this increasing order. So we know that the intelligence is very close to the soul. And then comes the mind, then the senses, and finally the dull matter. So what are we going to do? We are going to start attacking the senses. Meaning we are going to regulate the senses so that the rest higher up in the hierarchy can actually come into control, because the senses is closest to the dull matter, right? So if we control the senses, if we regulate the senses, slowly the rest will be under control. However, there is another problem, the mind. We all know it is so difficult to conquer the mind. The mind is constantly throwing out ideas. So the mind has to be steadied. How do we steady the mind? We have to steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, knowing that you're transcendental to the mind, intelligence, and senses. This comes with reading of scriptures. So when we read scriptures, we gain sufficient knowledge to strengthen our intelligence, and our intelligence can eventually overpower the mind. This mind that is restless, that way can become very steady. So by spiritual strength, by gaining knowledge from scriptures, by getting guidance from books like Bhagavad Gita, we can conquer this enemy known as lust. So now we'll split this room into two groups. Group 1 will do an activity and group 2 another activity. Both these activities are from these verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Group 1 will do this. There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, verse number 42 of this chapter that says, the working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is still higher than the mind, and the soul is even higher than the intelligence. So I want group 1 to sit together in a breakout room and work on writing or drawing a diagram that explains this verse. And for group 2, they will sit together in a breakout room And with the diagram, they will explain the 3 degrees of lust that we just discussed in a diagrammatic format. So that way, when you put your thoughts into a drawing or into writing, it gets reinforced very nicely. So this will be the group activity for both groups. Please go into breakout rooms, and when you come back, you can share with us how you have chosen to depict these 2 verses. Thank you all so much. So now we will summarize what we have learned so far. Arjuna had a question. That's how we started. So Arjuna had a question. Why am I forced to act in a certain way, though it's not my nature? For that, Krishna says it is lust only. Lust is the cause of entanglement. And then he went on to explain the 3 degrees of lust and the 3 locations of lust. He told us that you go and attack the shelter where this lust has taken. Go to the shelter and attack it. He says, conquer the senses by regulating it and steady the mind with proper intelligence that you gather from reading scriptures. So with this, I end here. Thank you so much for your attention. Vancha kalpatarubhascha, kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha.
Questions, realizations, comments, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
So I think just a moment. Yeah, it stopped. Good, that was the example.
Hare
Not-
Krishna devotees, thank you all so
Yeah,
much for joining.
It starts
Today
again.
we will be
Just a moment.
speaking about the concept of lust from the Bhagavad Gita. I'll share my screen now.
Just a moment. I have to.
The concept of lust that we would be discussing from the Bhagavad Gita will be from chapter 3, verses 36 to 43. We'll start with the prayers.
So, done. So this is not really an example, a good example, I would say, but it gives you an idea how to structure and how to do it. The system is there. That I had some issues with the presentation, but yeah, otherwise it was fairly good. That yeah, Mother Loka Pavan.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, I was just wondering, like, what comments would you have, like critiques on the video? Because for me, it was very nice. I mean, I thought like it was like even perfect. So I was just wondering, like, what could be done better, like on your side?
Well, it was a nice presentation, but there were a few things missing. She did not connect it with the previous section. In the previous section, Krishna says in 3:30, how to act as a spirit soul, how to act without any sense of proprietorship and without any sense for enjoyment, that how to act spiritually, 3:30. And in 3:34, Krishna says, yes, but there are problems. There are 2 obstacles that prevent us to act in that way, and that's raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion, and likes and dislikes, because likes and dislikes, that brings us to that's on the material platform, that brings us to the bodily platform, attachment and aversion. But then Arjuna is saying, but yes, Krishna, I would like to act, as you say in 3:30, but there is a force greater than me it's something that forces me to act according to this attachment and aversion. And then Krishna says yes. It is lust, Arjuna, that causes these obstacles. and that makes you identify with the body, and that's why you can't act as a spirit soul. So the connection with the previous section was not made. The connection with the next chapter is also not made. And at the end of our presentation, she didn't really put that emphasis that you need to feed the intelligence with transcendental knowledge, and with the strength of that transcendental knowledge, the intelligence must direct the mind and senses to be engaged in devotional service. And therefore one must hear transcendental knowledge, and then the soul, which is higher, gets faith and direct with desire, the intelligence, yes, engage the mind and senses in devotional service. And then she does not give any practical examples that, how does it happen? A young man sees a young girl and becomes attracted because all the senses become attracted. Because the senses become attracted, it pushes the mind, and the mind misuses the intelligence to get satisfaction of the senses. So that's the conditioned soul. Everyone in this world is in that state, but the liberated soul acts different. Based on transcendental knowledge or transcendental realization, with its intelligence, it will engage the mind and senses in devotional service, and that makes them controlled. And that principle is not really explained. It remains theoretical, the whole thing. How does it relate to devotional service? It's wishy-washy, it's not clear. And therefore, I have my reservations by this presentation. There are a few more things, but these are the main things.
Thank you.
So, yes, if there are no further questions, please send these 4 things before the 15th of February to Vrindaranya Gopal Prabhu. The 4 things are your marked closed book exam. That's the first. Then the second is your marked essay. That's the second thing. The third thing to send is your materials and your lesson plan. And the fourth thing is your recording of your presentation. So I will look at your presentation and give you a complete evaluation sheet. Each point will get an evaluation sheet, and 70% of the mark will go to your presentation. 30% will go to your materials and lesson plan. But if you send these 4 things to Vrindaranya Gopal Prabhu, tell him that I requested you to send it to him, and that he would send me everything in bulk, in one thing, of all the students in a file. Tell him that, because he does not know it. That he knows something about it, but make it clear. When you write him, I'm sending you here these 4 things. Please forward them to Bhakti Prabhav Swami as soon as possible for marking. In Maharaj, you write that Bhakti Prabhav Swami requested me to inform you about this. So, anything further? We went the first day over the principles of teaching, the second day about the materials, and today we spoke about our science, the assessment and your assignment. I don't have to go further in your assessment. You have done the TTC1, TTC2. That's not needed, it's not necessary for me to explain that. You are all experienced in that case. It's about teaching the Bhakti Shastri course. Any further questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, can I have a question?
Yes, sure.
That presentation, do we need to plan an online lesson or a personal on-site lesson? Or it doesn't matter?
No, you must make a presentation, a recording, like I showed here. That is what I must have. There is no live lesson. You play the role as if there are students, like in the presentation. There will be no students, but that's no problem because otherwise it will be more. If you do it live with students, you cannot do it in 20 minutes. But I just want to see, evaluate your skills, how you are doing. That's all. So no need to create a live situation. Of course, if this course would be on site, then the presentations would be on site, and the students would be there. They would all be your students then. But we cannot do that. And to do that online, I don't have the time for it. I'm so busy. It was already very difficult to organize this course for me. But
Thank you.
I did my best to still do it because no one else wanted to present it. Because it's quite a technical course. It's not about bhakti ras. Anyway. Good. Something else? Good. Thank you then. Yeah. Sure. No questions? Yes, Vishwamvarsitanya.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding that in the files that you shared. I can't somehow I'm not finding where you're describing how to do that may be my own lack of seeing the right documents, but I received the one where the lesson where it's explained what the students need to learn, but I haven't I can't find it in those files like what you showed. Instructions about this presentation, and I was also wondering about how much the emphasis should we actually use our own experience as a way of starting the students to share their personal experiences with lust or with other things. So it's two questions, but
yeah, that's up to you how you want to do that.
Okay.
But I'm just doing a few here. Because here WhatsApp moment.
Okay. Share it on WhatsApp. It's easiest.
Share WhatsApp. And it was Bhakti Shastri PTC. Here. That here you are, all these files are shared here.
Okay.
That I showed you, they are all there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So it must be within that first PDF. But I must have missed it.
Yeah, but it's all here.
Okay.
That
Clear.
course materials are there. Good.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Yes, Shama Sundar.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you clearly.
Okay. We received the video links yesterday and before. So how long will be those links available?
They are available till the end of March.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That and Gopalanath, you had also a question.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. First one is, what was the name of the platform to upload the files? And the second question, I'm a little bit, I feel confused about the submission of marked closed book exam and marked essay. So how does it work? Which exam and which essay we need to mark? Maybe I missed the point.
First, your first question is you sent it just by email to Vrindaranya Gopal. There's no special platform to upload or something. Just send it to him. You can communicate via WhatsApp with him. You can also send it via WhatsApp, probably, that directly to him. And your second question is?
How to submit this mark closed book exam and mark essay?
Send it to him.
Yeah, I mean, which exam and which essay we need to evaluate? This is
That is what I all explained to him during more than an hour. All these documents that you need to print the Nectar of Devotion exam. You print also the answers, and then you mark it with a red pen and take a picture afterwards. That's one method to do it. You can scan it. There are so many methods.
Same files.
Yeah, just I must receive it digital in one way or another. That's clear?
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I was happy to be of your assistance. And after I received all the documents in the month of March of April, I will do the marking, and you will receive a result sheet with all the details and your marking. And then the ISKCON Bhagavad Mahavidyalaya Europe will send you the certificate afterwards. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Krishna.